Game week, baby. Game week for you guys too, huh? Got your A game on. You got your A questions this week. Ready to go. Here we go. How can I help you guys?
What ultimately went into the decision to go with James Blackman at quarterback?
We evaluated the entire training camp from a statistical standpoint, but also just getting our guys to play. The entire offense to play consistency was a big part of it, and then just getting a good feel for who has this football team, and I think James, when it comes to that part of it, James has the football team, but from a statistical standpoint, it was very similar. Both guys went and executed offense throughout training camp, and when I say it was almost identical from a number standpoint, so not necessarily anything from a playing standpoint made us make that decision, but we feel good about the quarterback position, and feel like we have two guys that can go and start a football game for us.
Willie, I wonder what the conversation was like with James. I know he's an excitable, passionate guy, but I guess how did you let him know, and what was his response when you gave him the news?
He was excited. Coach Browse and I sat down and spoke with him and told him the news, and he was fired up. He was James. It wasn't necessarily out of the rim or anything. He worked hard for it. It's something he's been working for, and he's excited about leading his football team, and that's what we expected out of him. I mean, he's fired up, ready to go, and I think he'll do a great job.
Coach, two-part question. Is Alex Hornibrook your number 2 quarterback, and do you have a plan to use 2 quarterbacks in a game coming up?
Yes, Alex is our number 2 quarterback, and we haven't gotten that far into game planning and playing 2 quarterbacks and all that. We just figured out who's the number 1 quarterback. Now we're gonna move on and keep going, but we feel good knowing that Alex can go in there and execute our offense, and we'll be pretty good.
Coach, when a player like James becomes a starter as a freshman and then loses his job as a sophomore, especially in the era of the transfer portal, a guy kind of sticks with the team and sticks through it and becomes a starter eventually again, I guess what kind of message does that send throughout the program?
Well, again, James is a great teammate, and I think everybody in this program appreciated that from him. I mean, you watch. I hope everybody appreciate that. Not only appreciate, I hope everybody learn from him too. Sitting out last year and wasn't necessarily easy for him, but he was a great teammate throughout that whole entire time. And I think that's when James really won his teammates over, just the way he was throughout last season. And then just from what he's done from that time on, he's what a big-time college quarterback's supposed to be like. And he's a young man that's loyal to this program, and probably more importantly, he's loyal to his teammates. And like I said, hopefully a lot of those guys see his perseverance and determination and willpower to get the thing that he wants, and by being patient, it paid off for him.
Coach, kind of 2-part question. You said throughout camp that it was really close between the quarterbacks. Was James kind of in the lead throughout and they were catching up, or was there some vacillation between, him and Alex, since you said statistically they were so similar? And if there was, what was kind of the defining moment to make that decision of James?
Well, I would say coming in, James had an advantage because he's been here through spring ball. Again, we was really impressed with Alex coming in and learning the offense and then being able to go out and execute it in a short amount of time. And those guys got reps with both with 1s and 2s when it comes to the offense. And they both moved the ball. They both made some mistakes, but they also moved the ball and showed us that we can operate with both of them at the quarterback position. But I think overall, and who has the football team and the way the team look at that position. We'll say James had an advantage from that standpoint. But I will say this, I was so impressed with Alex coming here and how much respect he's earned from his teammates in a short amount of time. And that usually don't happen, but it happened because he put in the work to do that, to get to know his teammates, and he works his tail off every single day, and our guys respect him for that. But just the respect his entire team has for him is pretty impressive for me. And again, it just goes back to his character and what he stands for.
Kind of on that note, I was going to ask you, how did it go with Alex? Did you and Coach Brow sit him down too, and what was his reaction and I guess his response?
Yeah, we sat down with him and told him the direction we were going. And again, Alex is a pro. He's a vet. He's a pro. Again, disappointed like any other competitor would be, but he understood our decision, and that was it, and knowing that he'll do a good job and be ready to go.
Willie, I guess you said earlier today that Dante Lucas is probably going to start at right guard.
Did I say that?
That's what I heard. It's rumors on the internet.
Jeez, I probably said that before I had my coffee.
Well, if he is the starter, what I guess how impressive has he been? I mean, you got a couple older guys that could have been options as well.
Does that answer your question? No, it's been good. I think coming in early in spring ball has really helped him prepare and get ready for training camp and be able to compete for that job. And he's done a good job throughout training camp of getting better each and every day. And he brings the physicality to that position that we want and looking for, and it just speaks value of Dante and his athletic ability and how physical fit he is to be able to play at this level as a freshman.
Coach, how did the team react when you told them that James was going to be the starter?
That's an interesting question because we didn't name James the starter until after our meetings yesterday, so we didn't necessarily address it with the team like that. We just addressed it with the two individuals, and one reason being is we knew the team respect both of those guys, and yeah, that's kind of how it was. It was afterwards when we decided on who the quarterback was going to be. Really, when we decided on who was going to be starters at every position. It wasn't until later on at night after we had met with our players. So that didn't necessarily address them and didn't necessarily feel the need to.
Coach, kind of piggybacking off of that question, because the decision came kind of late last night. Was it like the decision came down to the wire and that's just when you guys decided to make it, or is that just when y'all chose to release the news?
I just don't know if there's a rule on when we're supposed to release anything or a time when we're supposed to, but I do remember telling you all when we come up with that decision, I was going to let you all know and tell you, and that's when we came up with the decision. So we met as a staff, and it wasn't just the quarterback position, there was other positions as well. So we met as a staff yesterday evening and made a decision.
Willie, how much will it help now that he is the defined number one? I assume that means he gets more reps with the ones. And how should that help in a game week now that you're, whatever we are, 5 days out from an actual game?
I mean, I think both of those guys got plenty of rep and with the ones throughout training camp. And like I said, they both did a good job. And I don't necessarily think it helps or hurts you leading into the game week. I think the preparation through training camp, it shows whether or not those guys can get the job done and whether or not they understand the offense. And so, but leading into game week where you're just going to work on Boise and not against our defense or anything, I think it helps, again, James more than anything, just to prepare for the game and knowing the game plan inside out and being able to go out and practice and execute that and hold his teammates accountable to doing their job to help him as well.
Coach, obviously, you're in game week. Could you give us some of your thoughts on Boise State, what you've
I
seen
was
on
waiting for that. I mean, wow.
what you've seen on film from them and what you think of them as a program?
One heck of a football program, and Coach Harsin has done a great job. He's a Boise guy and understands that program inside out, and has done a great job with his program. And I think we all understand Boise and what they're capable of doing. They're a well-coached football team. I think they have like 14 starters back. Entire offensive line is back, and which I think is a pretty good offensive line, well coached up front, and defensively well coached, run, get to the ball. Kind of hardly ever out of position. You know, they're in position and they play hard. They play the game the way you're supposed to play the game.
This is my last quarterback question, I promise, and then we'll go back to Boise. But I just want to make sure we're characterizing it accurately. Is the fact that it was so close more a reflection on Alex doing well than it is concerns about James or how he did this?
Yeah, I think it's more Alex doing well than anything. Again, I don't want anyone to take it a certain way other than the way that I'm saying it now. James is our quarterback, and they both did a good job this training camp. You know, Alex was impressive because he didn't have spring ball. You know, he came in and had just a little time in the summer and worked with his teammates in the summer, and went out and was able to compete. Again, I think that's pretty impressive to be able to come in and do that. And again, he earned a lot of respect from everyone, coaches and teammates. You know, and again, not often that happens, but that was impressive from his standpoint. But Alex is a good quarterback, you know, and he showed us that.
Coach, Boise State freshman starting at quarterback. Just what's the biggest
quarterback question?
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
What's the biggest challenge in trying to prepare for a guy that you might not have much tape of except for in high school?
I mean, I guess that's the challenge. You haven't seen him play with this team yet, you know. But other than that, you don't think the coordinator's going to get too far away from what he does offensively, and I'm sure they'll tailor some things to help that young man be successful on the football field. But I don't think they'll get too far away from that. And again, it can't. For us, it's more about us. We got to be focused on us and making sure that we're on our A game so we can go and execute. We play smart and disciplined and tough. And if we do that with those things, then we give ourselves a chance against anyone we play. So I don't think not having film really hurts or necessarily help you right now. It's the first game. There's a lot goes on in these first games, you know, and I think it's so important that we play smart and discipline. And you see those things in first games all the time, and we don't want to be one of those teams.
Coach, how did the scrimmage go on Saturday, and how healthy are you heading into game week after that scrimmage?
Had a really good scrimmage on Saturday. We played it like a game, and it's pretty neat because we got a lot of situations throughout that scrimmage that came up that was good for us, and being able to execute out of it. And I thought it was good on both sides of the ball, you know. And if I had to pick, I would say defense probably won the scrimmage. If we had to pick from that standpoint, they did a really good job. And then from a health standpoint, we came out pretty healthy, you know. So good to go.
I would say a lot of the fan base, I'm sure a lot of the team too, has been ready for a long time to kind of put lessons behind them, have a new game, be able to show those improvements. I guess how ready is the team? And I mean, how are you trying to not kind of weigh on how important this game kind of feels?
This game is very important. You know, they all are important, but it's very important because it's the first game and the only game we have this week. You know, so our guys are ready. You know, I don't think we have to motivate them and get them ready this week. They're ready to play and ready to go out and have a great week of practice. You know, so I don't think I have to motivate them to go out there and play on Saturday. And yeah, we're ready. You know, it's been a long time, and again, it's football season. It's the beginning of the season, a new chapter, a new beginning, and a chance for us to go out and and show our improvement. But that first game is so important, just for the season, and something we always talk about is making sure that we win the first and last game of the season. I think that's always important.
Hey, Coach, a couple questions. To follow up first on Wayne's question about the injuries, the only thing that was held out a little bit was Josh Kano. What's his status going to be going into Saturday?
He'll be practicing. And be ready to go on Saturday.
The thing I want to ask you about was conditioning. First game last year against Virginia Tech, a hot night. I know you guys had a lot of cramping issues. I mean, both teams did really. Notice you had the afternoon practices, the evening practices. Was that part of that to adjust for what's going to be probably a really hot game again? And anything else you've done to help improve the conditioning?
Yeah, we run everywhere we go at practice. We just run, and if you don't know where you're going, tell our guys to run in a circle until they figure out where everybody's going. But we're running. But I think having some depth helps with the conditioning, and part of going in the evening was having something to do with we're going to play in the evening, but also just switching it up for our guys, and no telling when we're going to play. Sometimes we play 1 o'clock game, 12 o'clock game, 3 o'clock game. Our guys got to be able to play whenever there's time to go out and compete. So having some sudden change for them was good for our guys to see how they respond, but also just preparing themselves to go in throughout the entire day not doing anything, and then having to suit up and play football in 95-degree weather with some humidity. You gotta love it. It's Florida. So our guys are conditioned and ready, and like I say, ready to go. And the thing we can't do is go back to that game last year. We just felt we left a lot of energy out there pregame. It's a little different for me personally, and we got to make sure we're not doing that.
Coach, so you got a handful of true freshmen, especially on your defensive two deep, and Travis, a punt returner. What have some of those first-year guys done to show you that you're able to count on them sooner than later?
They were able to compete. They were able to come in and practice training camp and compete with the older guys, and part of them being able to compete, they were able to understand what they were doing, and they showed us that they can compete with our older guys, and they worked and earned their way into that position. So, yeah, we didn't put any limits on them. They earned it.
Coach, with Janaris in front of Josh, what have you seen from Janaris to give him that position, and have you guys seen enough out of Josh this preseason?
What I seen Janaris practice every single day, and he's repped every single day, and he's shown us enough that he's ready to play on Saturday, and we've got some rep with Kano, and Kano understand what we're doing defensively and all, and he'll get a lot more reps this week to make sure that he's, again, ready to go on Saturday. But J-Rob's been having a heck of a camp and showing some good things at that position.
Both at wide receiver and tight end, there's a bunch of oars on the depth chart. I guess how much does that speak to the interchangeability that you have and the depth that you have at those two positions?
It's good because we feel good about all those guys, and no matter which one is in there, we don't have to deviate from our game plan. And it's great when you can have some depth like that and have some young men that you believe in and know that can go out and execute for you. And to have it at those two positions is critical because of some of the things that we do offensively. So it's nice to have, and again, we just hopefully we can stay healthy and a lot of those guys play.
Y'all saw last year how important offensive line depth is, and I know Coach Clements has talked about you're probably going to need more than 5 guys. I guess just what can you speak to about the importance of having those second-team guys ready, and how much better do you feel about it now as opposed to a year ago?
I feel much better now, and it's so important that you have depth because, you think about that position group by itself. Those guys are having collision every single play, and there's some big, strong guys in there, and they're falling all over each other. So chances are somebody's going to go down, and to have somebody to be able to back up and come in there so you can keep things going is very important. And again, we saw that last year, and I think the key is not only is having a backup, but a backup that's ready to play. Sometimes last year we had backups that wasn't necessarily ready to play, and again, that was just the position we were in. We tried to work through it, and we worked through it, and we're in a different position now. And I think it's so important that we have some synergy up there and consistency on the O-line so those guys can play and work well together. And the only way that happens is consistently repping with each other.
Coach, Tamorian and Marvin returned to practice last week, at least that we saw. How did you think they did last week, and just where do you think they are, condition-wise?
They've been. I can tell you this: Marvin is ready. Watching him on Saturday and watching him run after the football, he's ready to go. So I feel good about Marvin where he is, and with Tamarion, we've just been kind of easing him back into it, and not necessarily rushing. And we're gonna speed up everything and go full bore this week as game week with Tamarion. So, but he's looked good, running and cutting and catching the football.
Willie, actually, I wanted to ask about three players. First, Leonard Warner. What have you seen out of him from the edge? Also, do you think Amari Gaynor is going to play some? But how much have you liked what Leonard Warner's done for you? I
really like Leonard. I really started to fall in love with Leonard towards the end of last year. You can see him just getting better as the season went on, and he's a smart football player. He's athletic, and I think he's a good pass rusher too. When it comes down to pass rush, he's one of our better blitzers. But he's a guy, him and Amari both are two guys that do a really good job of tackling in space. And you look at the game of football now, you gotta be good at doing that. And both of those guys are athletic and big enough to do it for us. So, and then with Amari, yes, he's going to play for us, and I think Amari's going to do a good job for us too. I think they both fit that position perfectly.
And then on the depth chart, True Thompson and Renardo Green, both second string as true freshmen. Again, I assume that means they're probably going to play a little bit. What have you seen from them? How impressive have they been?
One thing I appreciate, those freshmen, every single day they've been out of practice. They haven't missed a practice, and usually when you don't miss practice, you got more chance to rep. And when you have more chance to rep, you get better. And I think that's what we saw out of both of those guys. And with Renardo, especially when it came to a scrimmage, he stepped up big time. And this last week and a half, I would say he's probably the most improved guy in the secondary, and just what he's been doing here lately. He's turned a lot of heads in practice, and True just being consistent up front and holding his own. Especially I think having Marvin out of there a little bit there early on helped get more reps, and he started to improve, and he's been consistent doing it.
Keith Gavin's a guy who came out of preseason camp with a starting job last season, but maybe towards the end of the season kind of faded off in terms of getting reps. I mean, what has he done this time around to get that job back, and what do you feel is different from him?
Well, Keith is he's older. He understands what we're doing. Keith is old blue collar, hard working, quiet kid that I think his senior year he's going to have his best year for us. He's been working his tail off, and it always helps when you have competition. You got competition. I think it brings the best out of everybody, and if you're a competitor, you tend to step your game up a little more. And I felt like Keith has gotten better this training camp doing that. And Keith, not just Keith, but a lot of those guys at receiver position, and it's nice to have. It's nice to have some depth, and nice to have guys competing at that position. And again, with us going tempo, a lot of those guys are going to play a lot. So it's good to know that, again, we don't have to change anything because somebody else will go in.
Willie, speaking of Keith Gavin, he's listed as one of the kickoff returners, as well as Keyshawn Hilton. I guess, what do you like about that combination of guys back there?
Both of them are tough. Both of them are good with the ball in hand. You look at a guy like Keith, he have really good size, being back there, and Keyshawn, he's fast, and again, another young man that's good with the football in his hand, and it's another way to get him the ball, and we want our special team to be special, and both of those guys can help us be special on special team.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of pressure now on college teams to play kind of high-profile openers, and we saw last weekend Florida and Miami was kind of a sloppy game. Last year, I think you guys had 5 turnovers in that opener. How much of a challenge is? Well, just how difficult is it? Just using it for reference to your first game be against a high-quality opponent, and what's the key to limiting mistakes?
Goes back to discipline. I mean, that's all we've been talking about this all training camp and been emphasizing is not being yourself. And a lot of time in those games, that's what you see in a lot of these first games. Most teams lose games rather than win these ball games in the first ball game, and a lot of it because of some of those mistakes. And you hate to make those mistakes in the first game and then get better later. I think you just got to emphasize those things that's going to hurt you in ball games, like pre-snap penalties. Those things kill you when you don't give yourself a chance before you even snap the ball and turn the football over. You gotta take care of the football, and I think you'll see more of that in this first week more than anything. And the team that does a great job with that, usually a team that's going to win the ball game. But again, we've experienced it, and it's so important that we learn from it. And I think it said a lot about our football team if we learn from it and make sure that we don't make those same mistakes twice. But you look around, you're going to see that in those ball games, and the team that do a good job of taking care of the football and that are disciplined, usually a team that's going to win.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All righty. Have a great week if you want to. All right.